Hey guys, what is going on? Today I'm going to be talking to you about my US Army wish list in Battlefield 5. What is that, you ask? So with the Tides of War in Battlefield 5, they're going to be bringing in different countries into the game, kind of progressing through how World War II went itself. So when World War II started, the US was not involved, and Battlefield 5 has not put them in the game to start, and they will be adding them in the Tides of War. So I've put together a wish list of weapons and vehicles that I want to see DICE add into the game. First off, we're going to start off with the iconic M1 Garand. So basically this was a 30 caliber semi-automatic rifle. It featured an 8-shot on-block clip. It has that iconic sound upon emptying the entire clip that I'm sure you've heard of before. Contrary to popular belief, you can eject partially expended clips. So if we do see this in the game, I don't want to see anyone saying that this isn't realistic. You could do that in the war. The weapon was used from World War II to the Korean War. Had a little bit of use in Vietnam, but it was phased out by the M16 at that point. It was the first standard issue semi-automatic rifle for the US. That was big because it kind of phased out the Springfield rifle, which was a bolt action, and that was used by the standard infantry. So this allowed them to get a semi-automatic rifle in their hands, and it was pretty revolutionary. The reason I want this in the game is because it's, of course, it's pretty iconic. It has an iconic sound, an iconic look. When you think of American infantry in World War II, you think of them carrying the M1 Garand. I think it's going to be a pretty powerful 2-shot rifle with pretty difficult recoil, maybe some tough iron sights, but I think it's going to be a fantastic weapon to use. Next up is the BAR, or the M1918 Browning automatic rifle. This was an LMG used during World War II, produced in 1918. It's a select fire air-cooled automatic rifle. It fires a 30-06 Springfield rifle cartridge in a 20-round box magazine, and 40-round magazines were used for anti-air, but those were withdrawn in 1927. Didn't see any action in World War II. This was basically the replacement for the Show Shot and Benet Mercier machine guns that the US was previously using. Those were both French machine guns. You actually saw both those weapons in Battlefield 1. This gun kind of replaced the average infantry machine gun. It was used as an LMG and often fired from a bipod. It's a little bit heavier of a machine gun, so it's not really something that you can kind of toss around, but I think it'll definitely be an LMG in the game, not an MMG. Why I want to see it in the game is it's basically their version of the assault rifle. You're probably going to have to play a little bit slower pace with it, but it's, you know, it's iconic. It's got that good look. It's got a great sound, and I think it gathers a pretty good, pretty interesting playstyle with that high damage and small magazine. Up next, I have the M3 submachine gun, also known as the Grease Gun. It's an American 45 caliber submachine gun. It chambered the same 45 ACP round fired by the Thompson. It was dubbed the Grease Gun due to its visual similarity to a mechanic's tool. It is made from 0.6-inch thick steel, made in 2 parts, and then they weld it together. So it's pretty much the handyman's gun. Why I want to see it in the game is it's pretty much your basic submachine gun for the US and British military. That you don't have it in the game right now. You do have the Thompson in there right now, and this is kind of the other counterpart to that. It also has that rustic, iconic Battlefield feel. So if you played Battlefield 1, you know they had a lot of unique weapons that had unique reloads, and you know they were really cool to look at, really cool to use. I think this is going to be another one of those weapons. It just will be a really cool feeling, sounding weapon to use in Battlefield. Next up, I have the M1919 Browning. It's a 30 caliber light machine gun used by light infantry, coaxial, which is on the top of tanks. It was mounted. They used it in aircrafts and against aircrafts. It was an air-cooled light machine gun. It had a woven cloth belt fed from left to right. Metal versions were later adopted, called the disintegrating belt. Why I want to see this in the game is because it's kind of your counterpart to the MG42. The Germans had the MG42, Americans had the big Browning, right? It'll probably be a heavy machine gun inside of Battlefield 5, and will offer similar characteristics to the MG42 and the MG34, but a much slower rate of fire and a possibly bigger punch. Next up, I have the Model 12 shotgun, also known as the Winchester Model 1912. It's an internal hammer pump action shotgun with a external 6-round tube magazine. The Model 12 was only available in 20 gauge. Later, a 12 and 16 gauge models were introduced, and then a 28 gauge Model 12 was brought out in 1934, but saw very limited production due to the Depression. In 1933, a scaled down version of the Model 12 called the Model 42 came out with a 410 bore shot. The reason I want to see this gun in the Battlefield 5 is basically that the Americans, obviously we need a shotgun, but this, when you think of Americans in the trenches, they're fighting with a shotgun, a trench gun, pump action, with a bayonet on the end, and just going to work in the trenches, clearing out bunkers and whatnot. Next, I want to see the M1903 Springfield. This was a United States rifle. It was the standard issue rifle for a long time, was later replaced by the M1 Garand. It shoots a 30-06 rifle round. It is a 5-round magazine, bolt action, service repeating rifle. It was the U.S. Army's sniper rifle of choice during the Second World War. It was a relatively close quarter sniper, had an effective range of 600 yards, so that would be interesting to see how that plays out in Battlefield 5. It was originally designed as an iron sights infantry rifle, so that's why it had a little bit of trouble being used as a sniper. Why I want to see it in the game is it has that iconic, really long scope on the top of it. It's got an iconic look. It was a really good rifle, and I think it'll offer a different variety of gameplay within the bolt action rifle that are already in Battlefield 5. Now I just want to quickly run through some of the vehicles I'd like to see. I'd love to see a Willys 30 caliber Jeep. What I mean by that is a Willys Jeep with a 30 caliber machine gun mounted on top. It's a quarter-ton 4x4 reconnaissance vehicle, and it was great for off-roading. As far as tanks go, I'd like to see the M4 Sherman tank. It was most widely used medium tank in the U.S. Army. Featured a fully traversable 75mm gun on top. As far as a little bit more mobile, I'd like to see an M8 Greyhound. It's a 6x6 armored car produced by the Ford Motor Company. Pretty powerful. It was really mobile, but the British didn't like it because they considered it rather weak, especially from underneath. It was rather susceptible to anti-tank mines. And lastly but not least, for planes, I'd love to see the P-51 Mustang. Obviously, one of the most iconic planes of World War II. It's a long-range single-seat fighter and fighter/bomber used during World War II. Has a max speed of 440 miles per hour. Features six 50 caliber Browning machine guns, 6 or 10 T-64 HVAR rockets, whatever those are, and 2 1,000-pound bombs. So this thing packs a punch, and I'm very excited to give that a try when they inevitably do put it in the game. So yeah, guys, that's basically my wish list for the U.S. Army in Battlefield 5. If they could bring in most of those things, if not maybe half of those, and then a few things that are lesser known, maybe not as popular as Battlefield likes to do, that would be fantastic. If you guys made it to the end, let me know by dropping a comment down below on which weapon you are looking forward to the most. If you guys want to let me know which country you want me to do next, I was thinking Japan. That should be very interesting. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you could drop a like down below, that would really help me out. And I will catch you in the next one. Peace.